The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. 800 different species lived under its protection. Some were ancient, older than most stars. Some were young, still learning to walk among the cosmos. And then there was humanity. Humans had joined the Council only 60 years ago. In galactic terms, this was nothing. A single breath. A blink of an eye. The elder races looked at humans the way adults look at children playing with toys. Cute, harmless, not worth worrying about. Admiral Park Daho stood on the bridge of his ship, the UNSF Eternal Dawn. It was humanity's greatest warship stationed at the edge of human space. Daho was 53 years old. His hair was gray at the temples. His face carried the lines of a man who had seen much and said little. He was not a man who enjoyed war. He preferred quiet evenings with tea and old books. But he was a man who understood war. He had studied every battle humanity had ever fought. He knew what his species was capable of when pushed. He hoped he would never have to show the galaxy far across the stars, on a world made of living crystal. Another leader was making different plans. High Sovereign Crystal ruled the Velthari sovereignty. His people were ancient. They had existed before the Galactic Council was born. They were insects, but not like any insects Earth had ever known. Their bodies were covered in metal that grew from their own flesh. Their eyes could see in spectrums that other species could not imagine. They had conquered 60 civilizations in their long history. They took what they wanted. They destroyed what they did not need. Now Crystal stood before his war council. His metal body clicked and scraped as he moved. His voice was like stones grinding together. "Look at these humans," he said. The screen showed images of Earth, of human colonies, of human ships. They are soft. They have no armor. They have no claws. They breed fast and die easily. And yet they sit on worlds rich with minerals we need. His generals clicked their approval. The Council protects them, one general said. They are members now. Crystal made a sound like laughter. The Council protects them because they are new, because they are interesting, like pets. But pets do not own 47 worlds of resources. Pets do not sit on wealth that belongs to the strong. He turned to face his council fully. We will take 3 of their colony worlds. If they resist, we will take more. If they fight, we will destroy them. The council will do nothing. They never do. They will tell the humans to surrender, and the humans will obey, because that is what weak species do. The demand was sent to Earth 3 days later. Surrender the colonies of New Busan, Haven's Rest and Prosperity, or face total war with the Velthari sovereignty. On Earth, the message arrived in the middle of the night. Within hours, it had spread to every human world. People watched their screens with fear and confusion. Most had never heard of the Velthari. They did not know that this ancient species had ended. 60 civilizations before them, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Ambassador Yun Hanna represented humanity. She was 45 years old, a former military strategist who had turned to diplomacy. She was small in stature but large in presence. When she walked into the council chambers, 800 species watched her. The Methroni ambassador approached her first. The Methroni were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They looked like trees that had learned to walk. Their voice was like wind through leaves. "Young one," the Methroni said, "we advise you to give the Velthari what they want." Hannah's face showed nothing. Why? Because they will destroy you if you do not. They have done this before. Many times, species older and stronger than yours have fallen to them. You are young. You can rebuild. You can make more colonies. But you cannot make more humans if they kill you all. Other ambassadors gathered around. They all said the same thing. Surrender. Give up. Live to see another day. Fighting the Velthari was death. Hannah listened to all of them. She nodded politely. She thanked them for their wisdom. Then she returned to her quarters and sent a message to Earth. Fleet. Admiral Choi Wanchik received the message in his office. He was an old man, past 70. His body was covered in scars from wars most people had forgotten. His eyes were tired but sharp. He read the message twice. Then he called a meeting of every military commander humanity had. The council wants us to surrender, he said. The room was silent. They say we are young. They say we are weak. They say the Velthari will destroy us. Still silence. One chick looked at the men and women around him. These were people who had studied human history. They knew about the wars. The real wars. The ones where humanity had nearly destroyed itself. The ones where millions died for inches of ground. The ones where humans had invented weapons that could crack the planet in half. What do you say? One chick asked. Admiral Park Dae-ho spoke first. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. I say that the Velthari do not know what they are asking for. I say that no species in this galaxy has ever truly seen what humanity becomes when we have nothing left to lose. I say we show them. The vote was unanimous. Earth sent its response to the Velthari 3 days before the deadline. The message was simple. It contained no threats, no anger, no fear, just 6 words. We decline. Do what you will. Crystal received the message in his throne room. He read it several times, not quite believing what he was seeing. Then he began to laugh. The sound echoed through the crystal halls of his palace. They decline, he said to his generals. These soft, small, short-lived creatures decline. He laughed again. Prepare the invasion fleet. 3,000 ships. We will burn their colony of New Busan first. We will kill everyone there, and then we will see if they still wish to decline. The fleet launched 1 week later. 3,000 warships, carrying millions of Velthari warriors. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in centuries. The Galactic Council watched with something like pity. They had seen this before. A young species, too proud to know when to bend. The Velthari would crush them. It was sad, but it was the way of things. They did not know what humanity was. They did not know what humanity had always been. They would learn. On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Admiral Park Dae-ho received word that the Velthari fleet had launched. He set down his teacup. He looked out at the stars. So it begins, he said softly. His aide asked if he was afraid. Dae-ho thought about the question for a long moment. No, he said finally. I am sad. Sad for what we will have to become. Sad for what we will have to do. The Velthari think they are starting a war. They are not. They are waking something that humanity has spent centuries trying to put to sleep. He turned back to his screens. God help them, because we will not. New Busan was not a beautiful world. Its mountains were sharp and gray. Its air was thin and cold. But it was rich in minerals that humanity needed. In over 50 years, 2.3 million people had made it their home. They had carved cities into the mountains. They had built lives in the stone. Governor Baek Soo-jin had helped design many of those cities. Before she was a politician, she was an engineer. She knew every tunnel, every power line, every hidden passage in the colony. She loved this harsh world and the tough people who lived on it. When the warning came that the Velthari fleet was 12 hours away, she did not panic. She called her staff together in her office, high in the mountains overlooking the capital city. How many can we evacuate? She asked. Her aide checked the numbers. Maybe 400,000. If we push the ships past safe limits, 400,000 out of 2.3 million. Soo-jin closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her face was hard. Start with the children, then the elderly, then anyone who cannot fight. She stood up and walked to the window. The sky was still clear. Soon, it would be filled with enemy ships. Everyone else stays. Everyone else fights. Governor, the Velthari fleet has 3,000 ships. We have nothing that can stop them. We have mountains, Soo-jin said. We have tunnels. We have people who would rather die than run. And we have 12 hours to turn this entire colony into a trap. The evacuation began within the hour. Ships lifted off carrying crying children and frightened families. But many people refused to leave. Old miners, young workers, families who had built everything they had on this rock. They stayed and they prepared. Mining lasers were pulled from the deep tunnels and mounted on the mountain peaks. Explosives meant for breaking rock were packed into narrow passages. Underground shelters were stocked with food and weapons. The people of New Busan had always been hard. Now they became harder. When the Velthari fleet appeared in the sky, blocking out the stars, they expected to find a population on its knees. They expected surrender. Instead, the first ship that tried to land was hit by 17 mining lasers at once. It fell from the sky like a burning comet. Crystal watched from his command ship, far above the atmosphere. His compound eyes narrowed. "A fight," he said. There was no anger in his voice. Only mild surprise. "Interesting. Send the ground forces." All of them. Crush them. Millions of Velthari warriors descended on New Busan. They came in dropships that darkened the sky. They came in numbers that should have made resistance impossible. The battle lasted 3 weeks. The galaxy watched in confusion. This was not how invasions worked. A force this size should have taken the planet in days. Hours, even. But the humans would not break. They fought from tunnels. They collapsed mountains on Velthari positions. They died by the thousands, but they kept fighting. Private First Class Kung Jin-soo became famous during those 3 weeks. He was 22 years old. A miner's son who had joined the Colonial Guard because it paid better than working the tunnels. He was not a hero. He was not special. He was just a young man with a mining laser and nowhere to run. When the Velthari pushed toward the last evacuation point, Jin-soo was one of 50 soldiers holding the mountain pass. One by one, his friends died around him. The Velthari kept coming. Their metal bodies filled the narrow canyon like a river of death. Jin-soo did not run for 19 hours. He held that pass alone. He used his laser until it overheated. Then he used explosives. Then he used rocks. Then he used his bare hands. 600 civilians escaped through the tunnels behind him while he fought. When rescue finally came, Jin-soo was still standing. Barely. His body was broken in 11 places. He had killed over 300 Velthari by himself. The footage spread across the galaxy. Species that had never cared about humans suddenly watched this young man fight with everything he had. They did not understand. Why would someone fight so hard for a lost cause? Why not simply accept defeat? They did not understand humanity. But the Velthari had numbers. They had time. And eventually, they won. New Busan fell on the 22nd day. Governor Baek Soo-jin died, leading a last charge against the Velthari command post. She took 47 enemy soldiers with her. Private Kung Jin-soo was captured, too wounded to fight anymore. Along with him, 340,000 humans were taken prisoner. 1.8 million humans died on New Busan. High Sovereign Crystal stood in the ashes of the capital city. Cameras from across the galaxy watched as he raised his metal arms in victory. "Let this be a lesson," he announced. Humanity chose to fight. Humanity lost. Now, they will surrender their remaining colonies, or we will do this again. And again, until nothing remains. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Every species sent messages to Earth, urging immediate surrender. The humans had fought bravely, they said. But bravery was not enough. More deaths would accomplish nothing. For 3 days. Earth was silent. Then Fleet Admiral Choi Won-chik appeared on every screen in the galaxy. He sat behind a simple desk in a simple room. His face was calm. His voice was steady. But something in his eyes made the elder races of the galaxy feel cold. To the Velthari sovereignty, he began. "You have attacked our people. You have murdered 1.8 million of our citizens. You have taken prisoners that you believe will protect you." He paused. "They will not." But another pause. "Longer this time, there will be no negotiation. There will be no surrender. There will be no mercy." He leaned forward slightly. "You wanted to know what humanity is? You called us soft. You called us weak. You looked at our short lives and our fragile bodies, and you thought we were prey." His voice dropped lower. "We are not prey. We have never been prey. We are the species that hunted mammoths with sticks. We are the species that split the atom and wondered if we should use it to destroy ourselves. We are the species that looked at every predator on our world and made them extinct or made them pets. He straightened. You have 60 standard days to release every human prisoner and withdraw from all human space. If you do not, we will come to your worlds. We will find your families. We will burn everything you have ever built. And we will not stop until there is not a single Velthury left alive in this galaxy. The transmission ended across the known universe. Species who had lived for millions of years felt something they had almost forgotten. It was an old feeling, a primitive feeling, the feeling that prey feels when it realizes it is being hunted, fear. The Mithroni ambassador contacted humanity within hours. "You cannot mean this," he said. "This is not how civilized species behave. This is genocide. You are threatening." Ambassador Yunhenna's response was simple. "Yes, it is. The Council will not allow it. The Council will do what the Council always does. Nothing." Anna's voice was ice. "You told us to surrender. You told us to accept the death of nearly 2 million of our people. You offered no help. You offered no justice. So we will get our own justice. And the galaxy will watch. And the galaxy will learn." The Velthury did not release their prisoners. They did not believe humanity could do what it threatened. They had never been more wrong about anything in their 80,000-year history. The galaxy did not understand humans. They saw a young species. They saw soft bodies without claws or armor. They saw short lives that ended in less than a century. They thought this made humans weak. They were wrong. Humans were not peaceful because they could not fight. Humans were peaceful because they understood fighting better than any species alive. Every war in human history had been a lesson. Every genocide had taught them what extinction looked like. Every weapon they built was more terrible than the last. They had spent their entire existence learning how to kill. Now they would show the galaxy what they had learned. Vice Admiral Shin Taeyong commanded the first Shadow Fleet. 30 stealth frigates. Painted black, running silent. They did not carry the biggest guns. They did not have the most armor. But they could appear anywhere without warning and disappear before anyone could respond. Taeyong was 41 years old. She had spent her career studying how to break an enemy without fighting them directly. She knew that wars were not won by killing soldiers. Wars were won by starving armies. "The Velthury think war is about territory," she told her crews before they launched. "They think it is about holding ground and winning battles. They are wrong. War is about logistics. An army that cannot eat cannot fight. A fleet that cannot refuel cannot move. We are going to teach them this lesson." The Shadow Fleet struck 3 days after Admiral Choi's broadcast. The first target was a Velthury supply station in the outer territories. It was far from any battle. It held food and fuel for the invasion fleet at New Busan. 200 workers. No real defenses. Taeyong's frigates appeared from nowhere. They destroyed the station in 4 minutes. Then they vanished. The Velthury did not know what had happened. They sent ships to investigate. By the time those ships arrived, the Shadow Fleet had already hit 2 more targets. Over the next 3 months, Taeyong's 30 ships destroyed 147 supply stations, 82 fuel depots, and 209 communication relays. The Velthury could not catch them, could not find them, could not predict where they would strike next. The great invasion fleet at New Busan began to starve. Ships that had carried millions of warriors now sat empty because there was no fuel to move them. Soldiers who had conquered a world now rationed food because their supply lines were ash. Crystal raged and sent hunting fleets after the human ships. None of them ever came back, but this was only half of humanity's plan. Colonel Oh Junho led Special Operations Group 9. They were humanity's best soldiers. 200 men and women who had trained their entire lives for missions that seemed impossible. They did not fight armies. They solved problems that armies could not solve. Their problem now: 340,000. Human prisoners on a Velthury prison world. The planet was called Kanash. It was deep in Velthari space. 40,000 Velthari guards watched over the prisoners. The planet's defense grid could destroy any ship that came close without permission. It was, by every measure, impossible to attack. Junho studied the target for 2 weeks. He read every report. He analyzed every scan. He found the weakness. The guards are confident, he told his team. They have never been attacked. They do not expect to be attacked. That is their weakness. They have forgotten how to be afraid. The mission launched on a moonless night. 200 operators in stealth pods, falling through the atmosphere like meteors. They landed in the mountains outside the main prison complex. Then they began to move. The first guard died without making a sound. Then the second. Then the third by the time the Velthari realized they were under attack. 50 of their guards were already dead. The battle for Kanash lasted 11 hours. 200 humans against 40,000 Velthari. The numbers should have made victory impossible. But Junho's soldiers did not fight fair. They fought smart. They used the prison's own systems against the guards. They turned the lights off and hunted in the darkness. They set traps. They vanished and reappeared. They killed without mercy. When the sun rose, every Velthari guard on Kanash was dead. Junho stood in the main prison. Yard as 340,000 humans walked free. Many of them were wounded. Many of them could barely walk. Private Kong Jinsu was among them, still healing from his injuries at New Busan. He looked at Junho with eyes that had seen too much. How? Jinsu asked. There were only 200 of you. Junho's face showed nothing. We are human. 200 is enough. His report to command was 3 words. Package secured, returning. The galaxy watched the footage from Kanash in silence. 200 soldiers against 40,000. It was not possible. It broke every rule of warfare they knew. The Methroni ambassador spoke to his council in whispers. What are these creatures? What have we let into our galaxy? No one had an answer. Then the main fleet arrived. Admiral Park Daeho had spent 6 months preparing. While the Shadow Fleet cut supply lines and special operations freed prisoners, he had been building something terrible. 2000 War. Ships. New designs. New weapons. Technologies that humanity had kept hidden for decades, hoping they would never need them. They needed them now. The fleet gathered at the edge of Velthari space. It was the largest human military force ever assembled. Every ship was crewed by volunteers. Every soldier knew they might not come home. They did not care. They had seen what the Velthari did to New Busan. They wanted revenge. Admiral Park addressed his fleet before they jumped to hyperspace. What we are about to do, he said, will change how the galaxy sees us forever. We will no longer be the young species. We will no longer be the peaceful species. We will be the species that destroyed the Velthari. Some of you may have doubts. Some of you may wonder if this is right. He paused. I wonder too. Every day. But then I remember New Busan. I remember 1.8 million of our people. I remember Governor Baek Sujin, who died fighting. I remember Private Kong Jinsu, who held a mountain pass alone for 19 hours. I remember what the Velthari did to us, and I know what we must do to them. His voice hardened. We did not start this war, but we will end it. Not with negotiation. Not with treaties. We will end it with such total and complete destruction that no species will ever think to attack humanity again. The Velthari wanted to teach the galaxy that we were weak. Instead, we will teach the galaxy what happens when you mistake our kindness for weakness. He looked at his screens. 2,000 ships. Ready to jump? May history forgive us for what we are about to do? The fleet jumped. The Velthari had no idea what was coming. In the 70 standard hours it took the fleet to reach Velthor Prime. High Sovereign Crystal received reports of the attacks on his supply lines and the massacre at Kanash. For the first time in his long life, he felt something close to doubt. They freed the prisoners, his general reported. 200 soldiers, against 40,000 of our best. Crystal was silent for a long moment. His compound eyes stared at nothing. How? He finally asked. We do not know, Sovereign. Our soldiers never saw them coming. They fought in the darkness. They fought without fear. They did not stop until every guard was dead. Crystal thought about the human admiral's message. No mercy, no surrender. Total destruction. He had thought it was bluster. The desperate threats of a dying species. Now he was not so sure. Recall the home fleet, he ordered. All of it. Bring every ship back to defend the homeworld. It's good that we'll leave our outer colonies unprotected. It does not matter. The humans are not coming for our colonies. Crystal's voice was quiet. They are coming for us. He was right. They were coming, and they would not stop. Velthor Prime was beautiful in a terrible way. Its surface was covered in living crystal that grew from the ground like forests of glass. Its cities were carved from this crystal, gleaming towers that caught the light of twin suns. The Velthori had built their civilization here for 80,000 years. They believed it would stand forever. Admiral Park Deho's fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. 2,000 human warships surrounded the planet like a ring of steel. They appeared all at once, without warning, filling the space around Velthor Prime so completely that escape was impossible. Crystal watched from his palace as the sky filled with enemy ships. His home defense fleet 100 vessels moved to engage. They were the pride of Velthori engineering. The finest ships his species had ever built. The battle lasted for hours. It was not really a battle. It was more like a demonstration. Human ships moved in ways the Velthori could not understand. They accelerated so fast that the GI forces should have crushed anyone inside. They turned at angles that should have torn any vessel apart. They seemed to know where Velthori weapons would fire before the weapons fired. The galaxy did not know humanity's secret. Human pilots were not ordinary humans anymore. They had changed themselves. Genetic modifications made their bodies stronger. Cybernetic implants connected their minds directly to their ships. They could think faster, react faster, survive forces that would kill any other species. Humanity had done this to themselves, had made themselves into weapons. Because that was what humanity did when facing extinction. They adapted. They changed. They became whatever they needed to become to survive. Within 2 hours, half the Velthori defense fleet was burning wreckage. Within 4 hours, not a single Velthori ship remained. Admiral Park had not lost a single vessel. Crystal stood in his throne room, watching the reports come in. His compound eyes showed no emotion. But his hands trembled. How? He asked. How can they be this strong? They are children. Their species is barely 100,000 years old. His last general had no answer. Then the ground invasion began. General Yu Kiwan had trained for this moment his entire life. He was 60 years old, a veteran of wars most people had forgotten. He had studied every human conflict since the beginning of recorded history. He knew more about killing than most people knew about living. He led 500,000 soldiers onto Velthor Prime. They came in dropships that fell through the atmosphere like rain. They landed on every continent and every major city. They did not come to negotiate. They did not come to occupy. They came to destroy. The Velthori had billions of warriors on their homeworld. They were bred for combat. Their bodies were natural weapons, metal carapaces that could stop bullets, bladed arms that could cut through steel. They should have crushed the human invasion through sheer numbers alone. They did not. Human soldiers wore power armor that made them almost invincible. Velthori claws scraped uselessly against alloy plates. Human weapons could pierce any carapace. Human tactics used 3,000 years of warfare experience. The Velthori had numbers. Humanity had everything else, city by city, continent by continent. The Velthori fell. Sergeant Nambora led a squad through the capital city. She was 32 years old. Before the war, she had been a school teacher. She had never wanted to be a soldier, but when New Busan burned, she volunteered. She trained for 8 months. She became good at killing. She did not like being good at killing, but she did it anyway. Her squad moved through the crystal towers, clearing building by building. The Velthori fought hard. They died harder. Biora watched her soldiers work with cold efficiency. These were not the same people they had been before the war. The war had changed them. It had burned away their softness and left only steel behind. On the third day of the invasion, our squad found a nest. It was hidden in the basement of a destroyed building. Inside were juveniles young Velthari, barely hatched. They were not soldiers. They were children. They huddled in the darkness, making sounds that might have been crying. Bjor's squad stopped. They looked at her, waiting. She opened a channel to command. "General Yu, we have found a nest of juveniles. Requesting guidance." There was a long silence on the other end. Then the general's voice came back, cold, flat. "The order stands, Sergeant. Total war doctrine. No exceptions." Bjora looked at the juveniles. They were aliens, insects. Their species had killed nearly 2 million humans. Their parents would have killed more if they could, but they were children. She made a choice. "Squad," she said. "Move to the next objective." She did not kill them herself. She could not. But she reported their location to Orbital Command. 20 minutes later, a missile turned that building into glass. This was humanity's terrible gift. They could feel compassion. They could recognize horror. They could understand that what they were doing was monstrous. And they could do it anyway when they believed they had no other choice. The Velthari had shown no mercy at New Busan. Humanity showed no mercy at Elthor Prime. The homeworld fell in 6 weeks. Then the fleets moved to the colonies. Crixtal escaped before his palace fell. He fled to the outer territories, gathering what remained of his people. They tried to hide. They tried to run. It did not matter. Human ships found them everywhere. Vice Admiral Shin Tae-young's shadow fleet hunted Velthari refugees across the galaxy. Colony after colony was destroyed. Ship after ship was burned. The Velthari, who had once conquered 60 species, now fled like prey from a predator. They could not escape. The campaign lasted 18 months. When it was over, there were no Velthari left. Not a single one. A species that had existed for 80,000 years, that had built an empire spanning hundreds of worlds, that had believed themselves invincible, they were gone, extinct, erased from the galaxy as if they had never existed. The last Velthari ship was cornered in a dead system, far from any star. It carried Crixtal and 300 survivors, all that remained of his species. Admiral Park Daeho's fleet surrounded them. There was no escape. Park opened a channel to the Velthari ship. The screen showed Crixtal, once proud, now broken. His metal carapace was cracked. His compound eyes were dull. "Sovereign Crixtal," Park said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "Do you understand now? Do you understand what you woke when you attacked us?" Crixtal was silent for a long moment. "You are monsters," he finally said. "We are warriors. We killed in battle. We conquered. But you have erased us. Every egg, every juvenile, every elder. You have ended our entire species. That is not war. That is evil." Park nodded slowly. "Yes, it is. And we will carry this evil forever. Every human alive will know what we did here. We will teach our children, and they will teach their children. We will never pretend it was good or right or justified. We will only remember that it was necess." "Airy," he leaned forward, "killed 1.8 million of us and expected us to surrender. You did not understand what we are. We are the species that would rather burn the galaxy than kneel. We are the species that will sacrifice everything, including our own souls, to protect our people. You thought we were prey. We are the hunters who have simply learned to be kind." Straightened. "Goodbye, Sovereign." The weapons fired. The last Velthari ship became dust. Admiral Park sat on his bridge for a long time after it was over. His aide, Lieutenant Go Yun-ji, approached him quietly. "Sir, it is done." "The Velthari are... extinct." Park did not respond, sir. "Are you all right?" He looked at his hands. Hands that had ordered the deaths of billions. Hands that had signed the execution of an entire species. "I just oversaw genocide," he said quietly. "I will never be all right again. I will carry this until I die. And after I die, history will remember what I did. He looked up at Yunji. But I would do it again. Because that is what we are, Lieutenant. That is what humanity has always been. Gentle until we are pushed. Kind until we are attacked. And absolutely terribly merciless when someone hurts our family. He turned back to the stars. The galaxy will never look at us the same way. They will fear us now. Maybe that is good. Maybe fear is the only thing that keeps peace. Closed his eyes. God help us all. The Galactic Council was silent for 3 months after the war ended. No species spoke publicly about what had happened. No official statements were made. The council chambers, which had seen debates for 12,000 years, sat empty and quiet. 800 species across the galaxy processed what they had witnessed. Humanity had erased an entire civilization from existence. The Velthari, what existed for 80,000 years, were gone. Their homeworld was dead rock and melted crystal. Their colonies were empty graves. Their ships were scattered debris in cold space. Not a single member of their species remained alive. Humanity had not just won a war. They had committed extinction. When the council finally met again, every species sent representatives. The chamber was full for the first time in centuries. Ambassador Yunhana walked to the central platform. 800 alien species watched her in complete silence. She stood there for a moment, looking at the faces around her. Some showed fear. Some showed anger. Some showed nothing at all. "You wanted to speak with us?" she said. "So speak." The Methroni ambassador rose first. His tree-like body moved slowly, carefully. His voice was like wind through dying leaves. "We have watched your species since you first reached the stars," he said. "We thought we understood you. We believed you were like us, cooperative, peaceful, gentle. We encouraged you to surrender to the Velthari because we thought you could not win. We thought you were not capable of what they were capable of." Whoa, he paused. "We were wrong. You are capable of far worse." Hannah said nothing. "What you have done," the Methroni continued, "is unprecedented in council history. Species have been conquered. Species have been defeated. But no species has ever been completely erased. You have crossed a line that we did not know existed." "We did not cross it lightly," Hannah replied. "That almost makes it worse." The Methroni's voice trembled. "You knew what you were doing. You understood the horror. And you did it anyway. That is not the act of a mindless beast. That is the act of something far more dangerous." Other ambassadors began to speak. Some demanded consequences. Some demanded that humanity be expelled from the council. Some demanded that human expansion be stopped before they became too powerful. Hannah listened to all of it. She did not argue. She did not defend. She simply listened. When they were finished, she spoke. "You are right," she said. "What we did was terrible. It was monstrous. Every human alive knows this. We do not celebrate what happened. We mourn it. We will carry this shame forever." She looked around the chamber. "But let me ask you something. All of you. When the Velthari demanded our colonies, what did you do? When they killed 1.8 million of our people, what did you do? When they took 340,000 of us prisoner, what did you do?" Silence. Nothing. You did nothing. You told us to surrender. You told us to give up our worlds and accept our losses. You offered no help, no justice, no protection. Her voice hardened. The Velthari had conquered 60 species before us. 60 civilizations ended because no one was willing to stop them. You let it happen. You always let it happen. And you expected us to let it happen too. She stepped forward. We refused. We fought, and yes, we destroyed them completely. Not because we wanted to, because we had to. Because nothing else would have stopped them. Because if we had shown mercy, they would have come back. They would have rebuilt. They would have attacked us again. The only way to ensure our children's safety was to make sure there were no Velthari left to threaten them. The chamber was deathly quiet. You fear us now, good. Fear is appropriate. We are dangerous. We have always been dangerous. But we are not evil. We do not want to conquer the galaxy. We do not want to destroy other species. We want to live in peace. We want to raise our families. We want to explore the stars and learn new things." She lowered her voice. "But if anyone threatens our people again, if anyone attacks our colonies, kills our citizens, takes our prisoners, they will learn what the Velthari learned. They will learn that humanity does not surrender. They will learn that humanity does not forgive. They will learn that provoking us is the last mistake any species will ever make." She let the words hang in the air. "We hope no one else needs to learn this lesson. We truly do. We would rather be friends than enemies. We would rather trade than fight. We would rather build than destroy. That is our nature too. But it is not our only nature." She turned and walked out of the chamber. No one tried to stop her in the months that followed. Everything changed. Species that had ignored humanity suddenly wanted alliances. Trade agreements that had stalled for decades were approved overnight. Border disputes that had threatened conflict were resolved peacefully. When human ships entered foreign space, they were treated with careful respect. No one wanted to be the next. Hari, the Methrony ambassador, visited humanity's embassy 1 year after the war ended. He met with Ambassador Hannah in a quiet garden filled with earth plants. "I have studied your species," he said. "I have read your history, your wars, your genocides, the terrible things you have done to each other. We are not proud of those things," Hannah said. "No, but you learn from them." The Methrony was quiet for a moment. Most species, when they develop weapons capable of destroying their own world, they use those weapons. They destroy themselves. "We have watched hundreds of young species burn in nuclear fire or biological plague, but not you. You built the weapons. You came to the edge of extinction, and then you stopped." "Barely," Hannah admitted. "And then you went to the stars. You brought your weapons with you, but you did not use them. You were peaceful. You were kind. You made friends. And we thought that meant you had changed, that you had evolved beyond violence." He looked at her with ancient eyes. He did not understand. "You did not evolve beyond violence. You mastered it. You learned to control it, to contain it, to keep it locked away unless it was truly needed. The Velthari broke that lock. They released something your species had spent thousands of years trying to suppress." Hannah nodded slowly. "We hoped we would never have to be what we were again, and now we know we can be. And the galaxy knows too." She looked at the flowers around them. "We will try to lock it away again. We will teach our children to be gentle. We will build and trade and explore. But we will never forget what we are capable of, and neither will anyone else." 100 years passed. The war against the Velthari faded from living memory into history. New generations of humans grew up knowing about it only from books and memorials. They knew their ancestors had done something terrible, something necessary, something that still shaped how the galaxy viewed humanity. A young Methrony scholar wrote a thesis on the conflict. In it, she tried to explain what humanity had done and why. "Humans did not destroy the Velthari because they enjoyed it," she wrote. "They did it because they understood something that most species never learn. Sometimes, the only way to ensure peace is to show everyone exactly what the price of war will be." The Velthari were not just an enemy to be defeated. They were a message to be sent, a warning written in extinction. Any species that ever considers attacking humanity will remember the Velthari. They will remember what happened, and they will choose a different path. Her thesis was read across the galaxy. It became required study in diplomatic schools. It helped explain why humanity, a species so young, had become one of the most influential voices in the Council. Everyone respected humans now. Everyone feared them too, on Earth. In a quiet memorial garden, the names of everyone who died on New Busan were carved in stone. 1.8 million names. It took hours to walk from one end to the other. At the center was a simple statue of a soldier holding a mining laser, a tribute to Private Kong Jinsu, who had held a mountain pass alone for 19 hours. Below the statue was an inscription. "We remember what was taken. We remember what we became. We will never forget either." Admiral Park Dae-ho visited that garden every year until his death. At 91, he never gave interviews about the war. He never wrote memoirs. He spent his final decades in quiet charity work, helping rebuild colonies and fund hospitals. Those who knew him said he kept a small piece of crystal on his desk. Velthry crystal, a reminder of what he had done. On the last day of his life, his grandchildren asked him about the war. They were too young to understand what he had done, but old enough to know it was important. Grandfather, his youngest grandchild, asked, "Were you a hero?" Park was silent for a long time. His eyes, still sharp despite his age, looked at something far away. "I was not a hero. I did what had to be done. I protected our people. But what I did was not heroic. It was necessary. There is a difference."
Then what should we remember about the war?
Park looked at his grandchildren. The future of humanity. The reason he had fought. "Remember that peace is precious," he said. "Remember that kindness is strength. Remember to solve problems with words before weapons. Remember to see other species as friends, not enemies." He paused. "But also remember what we are capable of when we have no other choice. Remember the Velthary. Remember that our kindness is a choice, not a weakness. And remember to never let anyone mistake it for anything else." He died that night peacefully in his sleep. Humanity continued. They spread across the stars. They made alliances and friendships with hundreds of species. They became known as generous traders, curious explorers, and loyal partners. They kept the peace and helped resolve conflicts. But every species in the galaxy remembered the question that had once been asked. What happened to the last species that provoked humanity? And every species knew the answer. Complete and utter annihilation. No one ever asked humanity to prove it again.